Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to this session of the Ideas Festival 2020, Make News Great Again, How Algorithms Can Break the Fake. My name is Miriam Buiten. I'm an Assistant Professor of Law and Economics at the University of St. Gallen. Today I am here to interview Nikos Deligiannis, Associate Professor at the Department of Electronics and Informatics at the Vrije Universiteit Brussel and Senior AI Scientist at imec. Currently, he is working on the development of fake news detection technology, and that is what I'll be talking with him about today. He has worked on signal processing, machine learning, and deep learning theory. Before this, he serves as a vice chair of the EuroCEP Technical Area Committee on Signal and Data Analytics for Machine Learning, and he has received several scientific awards for his work, including the Best Paper Award at the 2019 IEEE International Conference on Image Processing, and until 2017, the EuroCEP Award for Best PhD. I look forward, Nikos, to discuss with you your current research on fake news, essentially. Now, before I ask you a bit more about what you are trying to do with this technology, maybe you can guide us a little bit through the terminology, because we read a lot about disinformation, misinformation, fake news, and I could imagine it matters not only what is being said, right? We have this definition of you're either spreading false information or maybe you're spreading it really with the intent of deceiving others. But I could also imagine that it matters who is saying this, if it's me with maybe 3 Twitter followers, or if it is, let's say, a president of a big country. So perhaps before you dive deeper into what you are doing, could you tell us a little bit about how you and your team approach fake news?
Well, thank you so much, Miriam, for the very interesting introduction, and then for the complete introduction. We have to work on making shorter, I guess. And yes, we've been working for a number of years on this topic. We are actually investigating different aspects of fake news, from the propagation to the analysis of the content. This is a very, we are working also in collaboration with social science experts, but in general, we work on the analysis of the news, not only fake or genuine is also included. So we have worked on the analysis of fake news from the on news on social media from the aspect of geolocation, to try to understand where specific information is originating from. We have worked also on similar topics about COVID-19 Twitter analysis. So basically now my team is participating in an international challenge on trying to identify events on social media, or events related to COVID-19 on social media. And also, of course, the analysis of how specific accounts can be influential on social media. So how many followers can they have, and how by discussing specific topics they can increase their influence on such social media. So my research team focuses both on big data analysis, but also on image processing and video processing, up to natural language processing aspects. So as you can imagine, we are trying to cover the entire spectrum of the associated technologies, but our focus is mostly on the core algorithms, on the core machine learning methods that they can be used. So we are trying to be focusing on different aspects of the data. That's why we call our solution multi-view. So you can see the data with different views, from the textual content to the, let's say, images or video, and try to extract insights from all of these different data, and to see whether actually we are discussing about an event, or we are discussing about a true event or a fake event. So So this is more or less what we are doing.
So at this stage, if I could understand it correctly, it's analyzing all of these data from social media networks. Now, what would be the possible applications of such a tool, perhaps in the future? Yes.
So first of all, I think I didn't answer your question about the different aspects of fake news, and obviously, I think we are all and visualize, or at least we are experiencing different aspects of fake news, or of, let's say, manipulated news. You probably have seen on social media or on web pages that you might be following parody news, or manipulation of content with the scope of parody. You probably have seen sometimes an article that is being written which carries specific information, and then you try to couple it. So, and then there is another image in front of the title, or a title in front of the article, or a title associated to this article that is not actually linking very well with the content. Or if you put together the title and the content and the image, they don't actually convey the message that you want. Another example of fake news, which actually contain genuine information, is, or another example of, let's say, the variability or the veracity of information, is the same image along the different decades, even not manipulated image, but the same image could have a completely different meaning or connotation through the ages or through the decades. So you can imagine that this is a very difficult problem to understand. It's a very difficult problem to detect as well, and this is why it's a problem that actually AI algorithms are trying to solve right now, and it's a big challenge. So what I can also cite, even in textual, in text, right? So you sometimes say a specific thing in a way that it can lead to certain to a certain connotation. Like when we are saying the same sentence, the way that we pronounce the words can actually create the sarcasm. So it's actually a very subtle difference between the different ways that you can, extract experience from content and interacting with such content.
So essentially, even if we could in some way agree on what is fake news or what is problematic content, it is already very difficult to determine that using an algorithm, because the subtleties of how we pronounce something, in which context we say something, right? If I understand you correctly.
I think it's a challenge. I mean, imagine that we are within the same family. You can read a specific article, and this article can generate completely different emotions and feelings in between people that they are really strongly related. Even people with the same background could translate a specific message in a different way. So it's also about the let's say the experience, that the triggers that it creates to people as well, and that's what actually specific imposter groups want to achieve with this kind of information.
Right. And so so the first thing that came to my mind is that such a tool could ultimately be used to filter content in a way, right, for social media platforms or other sources of information, essentially to be filtered. And that has been quite the debate, everywhere, essentially. Here in Europe, we even had demonstrations, people demonstrating for fears that filtering by online platforms would lead to less information, to creep on our freedom of speech, and no more parodies and satire. So on top of sort of the technical difficulties that you see with trying to determine what would be fake news, we have this additional layer of, okay, what could we determine is fake news and who should decide that, right? Should that be the platform? So maybe with this possible application of this technology in mind, how do you see that? Where is the boundary between, well, I'm just giving my opinion and sort of a dangerous spread of misinformation?
That's a very important point, in my opinion. So first of all, whatever technology can bring on the table, you need to have a way to use this technology. So as we have discussed already, technology is a tool, right? So you need to educate people to use this tool in the right way, and you need to have the legislation to support such a tool. That's the first thing that I want to put in the agenda. The second thing that I want to put in the agenda is that this technology needs to be transparent in a way. So it needs to be trustworthy. So for you as a person to take a decision whether this is fake or not, you need to have a way to interpret the results of an AI algorithm. So if there is an AI algorithm that tells you with 90% probability this content is fake, you probably need to know why this algorithm gives you this indication. So this is a very important aspect. And of course, the second aspect is that we need to have, so the first aspect actually relates to the requirements for trustworthy AI as also posed by the European Commission. And of course, the second requirement is that you need to have the right legislation, the right rules, the right guidelines, to the right procedure to signal that something is fake or can be potentially fake, and then to have different ways and a robust way to let's say check that this is actually the case. Because as you mentioned, by avoiding to do so, so if we are not successful in correctly characterizing this content, we can go to the other extreme, which is removing content or wrongly labeling content as badly intended or as fake, while actually it is not. And this could actually lead to problems in the freedom of speech, and other aspects where social science colleagues are more familiar with and better to express, to describe. So we need to be much more careful with what we are declaring as fake or not fake or not.
I was just going to say, we actually would have to dive a little bit deeper into the concept of fake, right? I could very well imagine maybe someone could manipulate this very video we're recording right now and have us say different things than we said, for example. That would be really fake in a sense, right? A manipulated video. But that's still something very different from people spreading information as facts, which actually are scientifically proven not to be true, or at least are very questionable from a scientific perspective. I mean, you could call it fake. It's rather maybe falsehoods. Should we treat those differently?
Well, technically, yes. I mean, detecting a manipulated video or a manipulated image, there are algorithms to do so. So you try to understand if there are parts of the image that have been manipulated. Now, if you manipulate a message or a textual message and you write something which is not true, what you need to do is to take this piece of text and you need to compare it with reliable sources, right? So technically we don't use the same way to evaluate those or to make a decision in these two different applications. But in general, you need to also, I mean, this is from the technical aspect, right? From the social science aspect or from the communication aspects, I'm not an expert to mention, to say how this should be, but maybe I think you are. So maybe you can also contribute with your opinion here.
Well, I mean, clearly it's a creepy, let's say creepy idea that videos could be circulating where people are saying things that they didn't actually say. Then again, when we think what's most dangerous, we could also imagine that, especially when we think of this sort of filter bubble that you may be in, if you receive the same type of misinformation or falsehoods all the time, that may be very dangerous as well. I could just imagine that for this type of information, this free speech problem is much more severe, right? I think most of us could agree that if you manipulate a video, I mean, you might even legally also be able to resolve that in a way, but to sort of draw the line between, well, this is what I'm allowed to say because I'm giving my opinion, and here I'm actually dangerously spreading misinformation, especially with what I said in the beginning. It might also matter who says it, right? Those with a bigger platform may have more responsibility, and that may be quite tricky. I mean, for sure, I suppose technically you can include this possibility of who is saying something or whom are they reaching, but it's not the content alone, if you would agree.
Exactly. And there is also technology that allows you to, at least for the content, to label or to be able to understand what's the timeline of content, right? So if you produce a video, you can put some specific metadata, and then you can encrypt this metadata, and then you can actually see how this video has been manipulated across time, right? So this is technical teams around the world are working in this kind of solutions, and blockchain, for instance, is a method that has been used for this kind of things. And as you mentioned, there is a technical well, I mean, there are technical aspects as well related to understanding who says what in media platforms or in online platforms, and whether this is actually true or not, or let's say genuine or not. This kind of algorithms exist, as well as algorithms that analyze the spreading factors of such content. So how does this spread across media?
Right. Now, so picking up on that, you've mentioned that it would be important to be transparent if you were to employ a sort of filtering mechanism. Now, this is sort of a broader question to your specific technology. More broadly, there's a lot of debate on whether these algorithms, whether you can make them transparent, if that's going to be effective. So what would be a way to do this? Yesterday, I heard somebody say that TikTok sometimes offers you the possibility, when you see one thing, to sort of see an opposing view. Don't ask me how it works exactly. I am not an active user, but at least, right, this would offer you a way sort of to get a counterfactual. Do you mean transparency in the sense of that you're more aware of sort of the bubble that you might be in with the type of information that you're getting, or are you talking transparency of sort of using technology that's filtering what you see as a user?
Well, obviously transparency can have different meanings, right? And of course, different levels. In my world, transparency is referring to the EU guidelines for trustworthy AI. So AI that it is somehow transparent to the different stakeholders. And there you can name the different stakeholders that they can participate in such a technology, right? So there you need to have technology which is in a way interpretable and understandable to these stakeholders.
You think it's doable?
I'm not going to say it's going to be ready next week, but people are working around the globe on this kind of problem. So I think it's doable.
So
up to a certain extent, right? So what is doable is
exactly right. I mean, well, you are the expert on that topic, but I could imagine that it is the more precise you would like this algorithm to be, that it becomes also more difficult to actually explain how it is working.
That is true. but sometimes you can have simple methods that they can give you fairly good results. So depends. You need sometimes to sacrifice accuracy for transparency, but it's depends on the actual problem. So sometimes people have shown that you don't actually have to do that. So it really depends on the problem at hand.
Now, as someone working on this fake detection technology, you actually have quite a big hand in how this is shaped. So what is your opinion on who is to decide what is fake news, sort of from a more ethical perspective?
That's a very difficult question, and I don't know if an AI scientist is the right person to answer this question, honestly. I would only envision that there needs to be an authority which is somehow it has the legislation and the authority to do so. I mean, I would not give that to the hands of any individual. So I think there needs to be a coordinated effort from the European Union to address this aspect. At least in the European Union, we need this transparency. We need to have some kind of body that derives some guidelines about this. In my opinion, I would not leave it to the hands of each one of us to decide what is fake or not.
Now, if we move a little bit to sort of an outlook or ways.
Look at sorry for interrupting, but look at what happens in the GDPR, right? So there are per country, there are GDPR responsible that actually make sure that the data is protected. So it could be the same or something similar in the case of genuine content, right? You could have some kind of authority that can oversee that.
Now, sort of as an outlook, so this detection technology could be one way to sort of ensure that people are at least aware of the type of information they see, or perhaps even to filter out misinformation. What about sort of a plurality of sources? Would an alternative be to say, well, we want to make sure that people get information from different sources? Maybe in earlier times you would have had different TV channels, and perhaps now that you're more in this online social media world, because of this, well, let us call it a filter bubble, but at least because of the algorithm sorting the information for you, that it's been said, right, you're more likely to see things that you agree with, because, well, that might leave you spending more time on this platform, which may be good for the platform. So could we still sort of also rely on people having a plurality of sources of information, or is that just very difficult with this algorithm filtering going on, and is detection technology really the sort of the primary thing we have to rely on?
Well, I definitely think plurality is a good thing to have, right? So maybe we can try to manipulate the algorithms to give us plurality, right? So, for example, try not to use the different accounts for husband and wife on Netflix. Just use one, so that you get a lot of content. So basically, what you feed these algorithms is also very important. That's what I want to say. So if you are in a platform and you are actually as individual open to different content. So yeah, I think these algorithms learn from you, and they recommend you also a lot of content. So just don't be monolithic. Then one of my simple answers to people would be, now don't be monolithic. Just be open and try different things, and then the recommendation algorithms will give you a rich information.
I've heard that there is software or some app that you can download, and they'll sort of throw in Google search entries that you didn't come up with to throw it all off. Perhaps that is a way forward.
Well, share the information. I don't really know this tool, but why not? Let's try it out.
Yes. I'm just checking the chat. If any of the listeners has a question, this would be your time to pose it in the chat. And otherwise, as long as there's no questions, I would simply ask you, Nikos, if there is something else about the sort of the outlook and where this technology is going that we didn't talk about yet that you would like to share with us. So where is this all going, let's say, or where would you like it to go?
Well, I would like it at least to go into a society that I would not say completely free of manipulated content or fake content, but at least a society that understands the implications of sharing such content, the intentions of people who share this content. And a society that is both socially and politically mature enough to understand wrongly intended messages. So I think that, and I hope that education and AI technology or machine learning or signal processing technology and social sciences and legislation can work hand in hand to offer a society where free of populism, free of badly intended news and so on and so forth. So that is, I think, a vision that that we all should strive for.
Absolutely. So, well, you've essentially already answered my big final question of what big idea is then to required. You mentioned education, but what would you say is the big idea required to combat fake news?
Well, I will, I will keep answering the same thing. We really need a new society that is educated enough and to use this kind of tools, because don't forget that if a tool is given to you and you can use it in the wrong way, so if you are badly intended, you can take such a tool and try to understand how you can actually manipulate it or fool it and so on and so forth. So basically we need good education, and then we need a strong legislation.
Good education combined with a strong legislation.
Now, and good algorithms.
And good algorithms. Well, that is where you come in. Now, we do have a question from Henrique Fazendero, if I pronounce it correctly, asking, Nikos, do you think that revealing companies' algorithms would help against discrimination? If they're willing to, right? I think that's the big question here. But what would you have to say to that?
In the scientific community, we see what companies, a lot of companies share their research results, and also they publish algorithms that they have developed. Now, I don't really know to a certain extent whether companies can share all the algorithms and information that they have, but I would believe that they would not be able to do that. So, ideally, this could work, but obviously it's impossible for companies in a competitive environment within capitalism to reveal your assets. So that would be an idealistic situation, I would say. But of course, obviously, if you open up your algorithms, if you open up all your IP, of course, we will understand what you're doing, right? A certain amount of people will be able to understand. But is it possible? Is it possible technically and economically or financially? I don't really think so. So yeah.
So we really do have a need then for additional tools such as the one you're working on, so that if we cannot, try and fight it, at least be aware about it. So this session hopefully already helps, even though I think people listening into this are probably also already open to this. So the big challenge will be to spread that among everyone, the importance of and awareness.
Revealing algorithms, I would not say that it works, but the auditing methods, this is something that potentially could work. if there is if there is an organization that is allowed to do so with specific guidelines.
Right. So we are back to good legislation and good education as the big takeaways from this session. Then let me thank you, Nikos, for telling us about your work. Thank you to OPP for organizing this great event. I may meet some of you again virtually at one of the other sessions, and I wish you a very nice day.
Thank you. See you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.